82, sir.
Okay, good. Madam, when you are ready, please tell me.
Yeah, ma'am is ready.
Can I start?
We are live now. Yes, we can start.
Are we live? Are we live?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Can I start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You are not audible, Duna, madam.
Yes, sir. Please start.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, all. This is Chandra Mohan, Ortho and Sports Physio from Dindivanam Sri Samraj Physiotherapy Center. A warm welcome to all the participants from our nation and abroad, and Fitness and Rehab India YouTube channel subscribers for the EXRX India and Sri Samraj Health Services Private Limited, an attempt to a world record events, webinar Super League session 23, episode 55, in association with Peak Health Studio Chennai, Physioactive Gurugram, Sairam Academy Chennai, Dusat Creations West Bengal, powered by Fitness and Rehab India YouTube channel. Today's topic is surface palpation for diagnosis of knee complex, will be presented by Sri Gokulam College Physiotherapist alumni, Dr. Vijay Kumar, PhD, Department of Kinesiology and Movement Sciences, Professor and Head, Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Physiotherapy, Pune. I welcome today's volunteer, Ms. Prachi Bhutt, also EXRX team, Dr. Rupesh and Professor Duna Saha. Now I welcome and request Dr. Vijay Kumar to start the session.
Thank you, Dr. Chandra Mohan. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to everybody who's sitting over there, the other side of the system, who are actually been very enthusiastic in learning something on this context of surface palpation and diagnosis of knee complexes. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Dr. Chandra Mohan and his team, EXRX team, with special thanks and support and congrats to Rupesh and Anushya ma'am for hosting this particular program consistently for the past 55 days, attempting for a world record. That is actually a good attempt, but more than that, the zeal for providing sharing of knowledge, finding out various participants across India and abroad, and asking them and requesting them for a session on their area of expert, so that people on the other side of the community physical therapy can learn something. So that's a fantastic effort. So my applause for these people and my congrats to these guys so that they can achieve a lot of laurels ahead. And a thanks to all you guys who have been here the other side to be a part of this particular program of surface palpation and diagnosis of knee complexes. Myself, Vijay Kumar, will have a short 10 minutes of theoretical component, and then we'll go in for a direct palpatory issues for the entire session. Now, before I could start the session, I'll be requesting you, all the participants sitting the other side, if possible, you can get anybody from your home as your model, maybe a brother, sister, mother, father, or probably your any other relatives who can help you to learn the issues of palpations of knee complexes, who will be willing and ready to expose the knee complex to you, because nobody is going to see you. If they can expose the knee so that you can visualize that, which will be very helpful for you, wherein you'll be able to palpate the structures, identify the structures, and then we'll help you for diagnosis. If possible, you can ask any of your friends or any of your family members to be a part as a model for you to learn. Number one. Number two, if you have a multicolored sketch or a multicolored whiteboard marker, or probably even a simple sketch pen, that will do, so that you'll be able to, you can identify and mark those particular points. If nothing is there, even a simple ball pen will do, that will be helping you to mark those points and you'll be able to go ahead with your learning process. So with this small introduction, we'll get along with the procedure of today's presentation of your calculation and of diagram. Now, we all know about this knee complex. It's not something new. It's absolutely fine. You all know about anatomy of the same. You all know about the physiology of the same. But what we are going to look for it is, by simple palpations of a knee complexes, how will you be able to diagnose your knee complexes? Okay, because what is the important thing here is, people who are into sports will be able to appreciate that you hardly have seconds and minutes to diagnose, or people who are into busy clinical practitioners or even young budding practitioners, when somebody comes down to you, probably in a clinics or probably anywhere where you're working, they come down, I have a knee pain, and we have to do a lot of special tests. Sometimes we do a lot of special tests, and finally we come down to a diagnosis that it could be simple or complicated. But this particular session will just tell you, if you know the anatomical part of the knee complex comfortably well, if you can palpate the exact anatomical part with your fingers, and probably if you know where your finger is, and if that particular structure is showing you symptom of pain or discomfort, and it means that particular structure is the one that is going to be involved, and it is 99% for sure, because you are palpating that particular anatomical structure. And if that causes you pain or discomfort, it means that structure is going to be involved, damaged or troubled, and any particular anatomical part that is going to be on palpation causing a pain or discomfort, it means that is injured, and the name follows, means a ligament injury or whatever it is. Maybe only thing is you may have to confirm whether it is going to be a grade 1, 2 or 3, whatever in health scope going for clinical assessments. So how to go ahead with your simple surface palpations for knee complexes? We all fantastically know the knee complexes, the beautiful knee, the fantastic femur inside, the fantastic tibia inside, and you have a beautiful patella on top of the same, and you have fantastic musculature on the knee complexes. This particular slide can tell you that you have got a beautiful vastus medialis, a fantastic bulk in the middle component of the lower part of the thigh, just above the patella insertions. You have the vastus lateralis, and of course a beautiful a small shallow down between this particular two muscle bulks. We call them as quadriceps femoris tendon, a beautiful patella, and of course if you can move the patella to the left and right, you'll be finding some structure that is going to be attaching a patella and the underlying soft tissue that is going to be a little hard enough. We call them as retinaculum, and you know your beautiful ligamentum patellae from your patella to your what do you call it, tibial tubercle, and of course you have tibial tubercle. So there are so many complex things. Now this entire structure, as you know the anatomy of it, the theoretical component of it, it's good. But when you come down to the practical component of it, okay, we have to identify where the patella is. Number one, if you know where the patella is and if you know how the patella is, then that will tell you a lot of information. And if you know how the patella is, and probably you'll be able to identify your anterior tibial tubercle, and that is going to give you a direction of your ligamentum patellae, and this will tell you a lot of components on here, that is specifically on your Q angles. And of course, if you know that thing, and if you know how to identify your femoral lower end and the tibia upper end, you'll be able to identify a joint line of your femur of your knee complexes. Once you identify the joint line of knee complexes, it is easy for you to identify your medial and lateral carotid ligaments, and of course the same thing that of your fibula. And beautifully done. Once you identify your medial lateral joint lines and your fibula and the anterior tibial tubercle, and probably a ligamentum patellae, your patella orientation, and your muscular bulks, what else you want? Your diagnosis becomes very, very simple. How simple is this? It is this simple it is. So just by knowing where the structure is going to be painful, by palpating it, you will be able to come down to so many diagnoses called IT bands, syndromes, your meniscal tears, your ligamental tears, your arthritis or bursitis, or osteoarthritis syndrome, your jumper's knee or patellofemoral instabilities, what not. You can diagnose so many conditions clinically, and you'll be able to just minimize your workload of spending time going for clinical assessment. And once you minimize your time, you can go for confirming clinical assessments by a special test, and that will help you for a better, more management. All right. So with this small introduction on knee complexes, I think you all by now have asked your friends, brothers or sisters or your parents to help you up to be a model for the same. If you are ready, please make sure that they are sitting besides you. Once they are sitting besides you, and I hope that you have a sketch pen or probably a marker pen or probably even a ball pen, and that will help you to palpate the structures. Above all, I want you people to be fantastically observing me. Make sure that you don't have a nail, okay, that is long enough that is going to hurt on palpation. So if you have it, get it cut immediately, and we'll go in for your palpations now at the spot. All right. So I have my son. So he will be my host for the day, who will help us to learn better on surface palpations of knee complexes. You guys are ready? I hope you guys are ready. So let us go ahead with it. Okay, so I have my beautiful man. So I have this knee complex for your demonstrations. Now, how many of you know your demonstrations of your knee palpations? I just do not know, but let us look for it. Now, what we have to first do here is, if you can palpate a knee complex, you have a fantastic patella. Okay, so if possible, you can draw your, you can draw. I'm sorry. You can draw the patella border. So this is the lateral border. This is the middle border. I palpate. This is the apex of the patella. So the apex, and this is the base. So I have drawn this patella. All right. So can you see this? So this is the patella, where I have this as the apex of the patella, this as the base of the patella. All right. And this is the borders, middle and lateral borders. Now, once you can identify the particular lateral and middle border of the patella, okay, what you will be able to identify down here is, just put your fingers, go down, little down, almost 3 fingers down from the apex of the patella. You will come across one bony prominence. Okay, there will be a bony prominence. Now, go just mark the bony prominence. Now, this bony prominence is your anterior tibial tubercle. So once you identify this bony prominence, anterior tibial tubercle, this is your patella. Okay, now you can connect these two structures. All right. So this is what we call it as a ligamentum peculum. Okay. Now this shining region is your ligamentum peculum. Now if you are comfortable with this ligamentum peculum, you are done with it. Now what you can do is, you can ask your friends, your relatives or your model to strongly contract the quadriceps. Yes, if you can strongly contract the quadriceps, loose one, tight one, tight up. If you can strongly contract the quadriceps, you can find there is a small elevation here and elevation here. Okay, loose one, right. Again, tight it. You find this, tight it still more. You find this beautiful, that's the curvature and comes. Now this region is your vastus medialis. Tighten this region is your vastus lateralis. You can find a beautiful curve. You find this. Loosen it, tighten it. See this? So this is the vastus medialis, vastus lateralis. And you can find vastus medialis is actually lower than, the bulk is lower than the vastus lateralis. Okay, so if you could find, the vastus medialis is lower than the vastus lateralis. So this is your vastus medialis. This is the vastus lateralis. So vastus lateralis is here, okay. Medialis is here. So definitely this is lower than this one. So the vastus medialis, the vastus lateralis, and you have here is your rectus femoris. Okay, I'll just take away the mirroring of the video. Okay, this is rectus femoris, and you have your vastus intermedialis. So this is your rectus femoris, vastus intermedialis. This is the vastus medialis, vastus lateralis. Okay, now you know this patella, and you have the tibial tubercle, and you have this ligamentum, your pepper. Now, the same individual, if you ask the individual to contract, or your friends to contract the knee complexes, right? You have a beautiful bulk, and here you can find a small structure. Relax, right? Contract it. Put your finger and ask your friend to contract. Relax. Contract. Once you contract, you can find this bulk is coming out, and this particular structure that is actually popping out is where the entire structure. So the vastus medialis comes here like this, lateralis comes here like this, your intermedialis and your rectus femoris comes like so. All the three muscles come, they get attached. This is called as your quadriceps tendon. This is your quadriceps tendon. So it is called as QT. This is your quadriceps tendon that comes medialis, lateralis, intermedialis, and your rectus femoris. Now, when this quadriceps tendon contracts, okay, you will have the patella that is coming up like this. Now, this is simple. We all know about it. Now, what is important here is this quadriceps tendon is lying above a structure that is called as fat. So you have a femur in the innermost layer. You have a layer of fat, and then you have a patella, your quadriceps tendon, and then you have fascia on your skin. So when your knee is not able to be extended, what is happening here? It's not the quadriceps tendon that is not actually contracting. You might feel the muscle is working. You may feel the muscle is trying to create some contraction, but it is not able to strongly extend. Is because this particular tendon is unable to pull the patella because this tendon is got stuck with the underlying fat pad. So when it is freely moving on the fat pad, it is going to pull the patella. When it is not able to move, it is getting stuck with the patella. This fat is not a moving structure. So when it gets stuck with the fat pad, it moves a little along the fat pad. After that, it is not able to create a force and will not be able to create a movement. So extension limit. So when people are not having a complete extension, maybe following a fracture or following any problem of the knee, where knee is not able to be extended, it is not mostly the weakness of quadriceps. Maybe a quadriceps sometimes becomes weak, but if it is strong enough, most of the time it is strong enough, it is not able to create a movement because it is not able to move over the femur because it is gets stuck between the femur and your, the fat part is getting stuck between your femur and your quadriceps tendon. So the fat part is not permitting the quadriceps tendon to move, and you have a difficulty in extending knee complexes. Right. So if the patient is showing a pain here on, maybe you try to go for a forceful flexion or a forceful extension, sometimes the patients complain of pain in this region. Okay, now that is something different. You may have to ponder onto this. This is one point. Right, let us keep it aside. Second thing, now you know your patella. So once you know the patella, right, so the simplest thing is what you can do here is you take this patella and you can find this patella, and you can find just below the patella, you will have a small depression and an elevation. If you palpate, you just put your fingers and count. You will have a small depression and an elevation. This depression elevation. So put your finger in the depression. Okay, put your finger in the depression. Okay, a little forcefully, just palpate with this particular part of your thumb. Okay, the medial pulp of your thumb. Okay, put your finger and palpate it. You will find a huge space. All right, you'll find a huge space. Now this is your joint line. So I mark my joint line. Very, okay. Occasionally, you will find the joint line is above the patella. Usually, this joint line is always below the patella. All right. So when I keep it in extension also, hope it is visible for most of you guys. Okay. Hope it is visible for most of you guys. When I'm keeping knee in the extension, I palpate the patella and I palpate this particular region. There's a small depression and elevation, this region. Now this is the joint line. All right, this is the joint line. So this joint line is always below the patella. All right, now this is very essential. This is very essential. Why I am saying it is essential? Because you have heard about certain contents called as patella alta and patella baja, if I am not wrong. Okay, so just to say, if the patella is found to be above the joint line and patella is found to be below the joint line, so what do we call it as? Anybody any idea about this? Okay, now patella alta means high riding patella. Patella baja means below, right? Patella baja means below, it means below, low riding patella. So when a patella is found to be, okay, when a patella is found to be at the joint line or below the joint line, we say it as baja. B means below, baja is also B. You can draw it. So patella baja is a patella low riding patella. Patella alta is above. So it's a high riding patella. So usually we have a distance of one finger. Approximately it is found to be 1.5 to 2 centimeters of distance existing between your apex of patella to the joint line. If it is more than 2.5, we call it as patella alta. If it is at the joint line, below joint, we call it as patella baja. So if you know this particular, if you can draw the patella and if you can draw this joint line, you will know whether the patella is going to be normally positioned or abnormally positioned. So that's number one, because this itself will tell you a lot of information about what the problem the patient might be facing when it comes down to the knee pain. Next, once you know the joint line, this is the anterior joint line. Now what you can simply do is you can just palpate and go ahead with this joint line. Right? You can find, you just make use of this medial, the middle compartment of this your thumb. Right? Find this region, and put your fingers, palpate and keep going ahead. All right? Keep going ahead. All right? So if you keep going ahead, if you palpate, if you just keep moving up and down, you will find there will be an elevation, depression, and elevation. Elevation, depression, and elevation. So this depression is nothing but a joint line. So you will have to just palpate it. So once you get used to it, we'll be doing a lot of experiments on this, but you can definitely learn a lot. So what you can do is just go along with this line, or you just come along. All right? So that's an elevation, depression, and elevation. Elevation, depression, elevation. So this depression, mark this depression. This is the depression. Okay. Now this is the depression. It means that this is the joint line, and what is above this called the femoral is called the tibia. So I have the joint line. The same way on this side also, I put my finger. Hope it is visible this side. Okay. Hope it is visible this side. So I can palpate it. So I put my fingers. I palpate it up and down. So I have an elevation. This is a depression and elevation. All right. I have an elevation depression. So this is the joint line. So this. Right. So you can palpate your joint lines. Now, you can ask me, sir, how do I confirm a joint line? Confirming a joint line is very simple. The basic components here is, we all know joint is a sensitive structure because it has got a ligament, capsule, sometimes meniscus. It also has got good neural endings because of it's supposed to do some activity of your kinesthetic sensations, okay, proprioceptions. So definitely joint is a highly innervative structure. So when these structures are found to be sensitive, you just put your fingers on the joint line and give a small pressure. Okay, just put your finger and give a small pressure. Is it painful? It means I am putting it here. Is it painful now? Is this painful now? Which is more painful? This second one, right? So when I am putting this, when I am putting my finger on the joint line, okay, I am putting it above. He is not wincing. But when I'm putting it on the joint, like if I is wincing, it means when you are on the joint line, you are going to cause a pain on pressure. It's simple. So if a pain on pressure is a joint is on the joint line, it means you're on the joint line. Of course, there are a lot many structures to be taken up now. So once you know the joint line, the joint line anterior and the joint line medial, same way joint line anterior and joint line lateral, if you know about this. So it indicates that your tibia is from here, the femur is from here, your joint line is here. So once you know the joint line of the middle and of joint line, what you can simply do is, okay, you find laterally, sorry, medially, if you could see the medial component of the joint, you find a beautiful bulk. You find a beautiful bulk. Most of us can see the beautiful bulk, right? Now this beautiful bulk is fantastically visible for everybody. In this beautiful bulk, you are seeing the joint line. You put your finger on this beautiful bulk, okay, and you keep moving a little. If you can find here, there is some click structure. Yes, you find a click structure, right? You find it here. You find it here. This is a click structure. Now I'm giving a pressure. Now this is painful. Now it's painful. See, it's wincing. So there's a click structure, and this structure is actually little compromising on the joint line. You can beautifully palpate the joint line, right? You find that nice joint line, and now the joint line is giving a click, and this click is painful for him. It's painful, right? So this is a painful area. You mark it out. This is most likely expected to be your medial collateral ligament, because this pain is little more severe than that of a joint line pain, because you are actually on the ligament. The ligament is superficial and it is sensitive. So if you are mark it up. So approximately you can draw a straight line for around 3 to 4 centimeters, because the medial collateral ligament is around 3.5 to 4 centimeters. So the point over there, you can draw a straight line. This is for approximately 3 to 4 around 4 centimeters. This is expected to be your medial collateral ligament. Okay, now this is one thing. So the joint line and it's a middle collateral ligament. The same thing, if you can visualize it over here. If you can visualize it over here, this is the lateral joint line. I'm palpating this. I find the space, a depression. Okay, I come across a depression. I come across space. Yes, now the depression is getting easily felt over here. You can find. Alright, it is not felt over here. Now it is painful. Alright, now it's painful. Alright, is this painful? Fine. So I have drawn this line. Now let me find where it is painful. I come across. Is it painful now? This is painful. So this is the painful region. So I mark this particular point. Okay, this is expected to be the lateral collateral ligament. So if you could find, the lateral collateral ligament is like this, connecting a tibia and the fibula. Okay, so this is the fibula head. You can see a fibula head fantastically over here. This is a bony prominent. This is the lateral collateral ligament of fibula component and probably your okay, right? So I just mark it out here. This is your lateral collateral ligament fibula component and the tibial component. All right. So if I know about these two structures over here, I am putting my finger and I'm palpating it. Is it painful, man? See, he's saying painful. So when he says it's painful, it means I am on the ligament. So this is most likely. So how you can find this? Now, the easiest way to find the lateral collateral ligament is you ask your, okay, just take it laterally. You will find a small depression in the lateral on the joint. You know the joint line, you will find a depression in the joint line. I don't know how it is visible for you or not, but if you ask your people to guide out laterally, and if you can find the joint line, there will be a depression. Okay, there will be this is the bulk of the hamstrings, this is your fat, and there's a depression. Now this depression is where usually lateral collateral ligament is going to be there, and you can palpate it. And if you put your fingers over there a little deeper, and you can put and just go for palpation, you will find some rope-like, small thin rope-like structure which will be able to be identified. Yes, and the patient will wince of pain. It means you are on the lateral collateral ligament. There is no doubt about it. So now you identified your lateral collateral ligament. Okay, so this is lateral collateral ligament structure. This is middle collateral ligamental region. Now that's all. Once I'm done with, it is easy for me because I am done with the middle collateral, I'm done with lateral collateral. Okay, I'm done with the joint line. Now the same thing, if I just extend it posteriorly where you have an insertion. Yes, the joint line is extended down here. I extend this particular line. Alright, it's rinsing. Alright, and extend this line jointly posteriorly. Okay, you will find a small depression after the insertion probably of your your biceps femoris. Alright, so this is the region. So I put my point over here. Once I mark it over here, then I am done with my markings because just the back side or beneath of your what you call your biceps femoris, you find a small depression. Join, make a joint line. Laterally, you just draw the joint line. You'll be able to find a small depression over here. You can mark it out. That's most likely to be your lateral collateral ligament of knee complexes. The joint line is here. You have a beautiful medial bulk. All right. This medial bulk, just the medial bulk, you put your finger. You find some rope-like structure. Click sound is there. That's most likely because if you go down, then you have your other muscles. All right. So you have your lateral collateral ligament over here, and you have beautiful muscle bulk over here. Now this is a beautiful muscle bulk. Okay, that is comprising of a bulk, a group of muscles called as of your pes anserinus. All right, and this just extend this, you will find this beautiful bulk gets inserted over here. The bulk ends and ends over here. This ending component. Now this end region is your insertion of your pes anserinus. So, if you look into this, most of you can see this bulk. This bulk comes and bulk ends. You can find the bulk ends over here. You can see it in your frame. So, where the bulk ends, you mark it out. Alright, now this is an insertion of a group of muscles called as pes anserinus. Now, this has got a lot of information to be given down to us because this. Now your joint line, your collaterals, okay, is visible to you. Your joint line is visible to you now. Your collaterals is visible to you now. Your pes anserinus is visible to you now. Now this is your bulk. Alright, this is the posterior joint line. Alright, this is the anterior joint line. Alright, this is your tibial tuberosity, your ligamentum patellae. This is your lateral joint line. Right, this is the lateral collateral ligament, the posterior component of this lateral joint line. This muscle that is coming here, okay, this muscle that is actually coming here is your biceps femoris. That's the biceps femoris, that's the lateral component. Alright, so once you know about these regions, now what I could see certain important things is like this. Okay, keep this knee straight. What is mostly identified here is, I can find the patella is fantastically there. Now, I am bending this knee complex and I am drawing the patella. And I am drawing the patella base is now here. So the apex is here. This is how much the patella. So the patella has moved this much. This way the patella has moved. So once I look at this, you can see here, okay, you can see here, initially the patella was resting at this position. Now the patella has come to this position. So the patella has moved. So the distance is, usually the patella moves approximately 2 to 2.5 centimeters in normal flexion. If this patella is not moving, it means, okay, when you are not able to get your range of motion of flexion of knee complexes, once you identify the displacement of patella, if the displacement of patella is less than 2.5 centimeters, it means the patella mobility is restricted. It will because the patella is getting adhered along between your what you call intercondylar sulcus, or this quadriceps muscle is not letting it to move down. So something is wrong where the patella is not made to go, it's not made to slide down, which is limiting you from flexion. So you should work on the patella, not on bending your knee by working on a tibia and a fibula. So this will help you identify whether the patella mobility is there. Second thing is, Okay, now this is where I have joined that I marked this ligamentum patellae, I have marked this structure. Okay, if you could find, probably I take a straight line from the base to the apex of the ligamentum patellae is straight. Most of you can identify it is straight. Okay, so this guy has got a patella that is going to be oriented straight, which is giving you a normal ligamentum patellae. Sometimes you can find some people having a patella the other side. Just show me, can you come down, show me this thing. Okay, so you find a beautiful ligamentum patellae for this guy, right? Fine. So this is the apex, right? And of course this, and a nice patella. This is how this guy has got. Sometimes you might have the patella that is going to be like this, laterally. So it will be like this to mark. So this is what is called patella till. Sometimes you have your patella, we call it as grasshopper eye patella, where the patella apex is turned laterally. It means the structure that is actually supposed to keep it straight is being pulling. It's pulling this patella more. So this is because probably they have more medial force more than the lateral force. Okay, or probably retinaculum is going to be too tight in this structure, it is lax in this structure. There's a problem with the patella. Or it could be because there's a problem in your intertubercular sulcus, intercondylar sulcus, which is making the patella to be oriented the other way. So you can find orientation of patella this. Now this is an important thing because sometimes there is a problem in this particular angulation. This is very, very problematic because this will need a lot of force for extending. At the same time, this will create more amount of compression in the medial the middle compartment of your tibia, your femur and your patella. Because whenever you are going to extend the knee complexes, the force is going to pull more towards the medial side, and you have more amount of compression taking place, and this will always cause you trouble. And soon the patient will show you pains of medial patellofemoral joint pain, and maybe you call it as patellofemoral syndrome or whatever. Of course, the diagnosis goes there. But this is one way where you can go in for. A lot of specialties can be done to identify what actually it is. But this is a short class to find about palpatory components. Now, you know how to, now just getting along with it, you know about your patella, you know about this ligamentum patellae, the joint lines, and you can identify your ligamentum patella, your carotid ligaments. Now, how, if I identify this, how can you easily identify and diagnose your problem? All right, let me come along with you. I have a couple of questions for you people. If you know, you can answer it. Otherwise, it is fine. But number one, if a patient comes down to you with a pain in the knee complexes, palpatory pain causes you at this tibial tubercle. All right, it is most likely a Osgood-Schlatter syndrome if the patient is going to be less than 15 years of age. All right. Less than 15 years of age, pain over here, it is little protruded and is swollen and inflamed. It is a Osgood-Schlatter syndrome. All right. If the pain is little above the ligamentum, this insertion, but just below your ligamentum patellae, okay, it could be a jumper's knee. All right. It could be a jumper's knee. It's called as, okay, so it's called as infrapatellar bursitis or jumper's knee. All right, so if you have a diagnosed pain over here on palpation, it is different. Pain over here on palpation is different. Now you have this joint line. Patient comes down to you with the knee joint pain. Here no pain, here no pain. And the patient is going to be more than 40 or 45. No symptom of trauma, injury or fall. And you are giving you're palpating the joint line. All right, and the patient shows you joint line pain. Okay, no history of trauma. More than 40-45 years, most likely a degeneration of knee complex. Okay, wherein you might have a cartilage thinning, you might have an osteopenia, or probably the imaging might show you, okay, degeneration of knee complexes. So this could be a primary degenerative arthritis, early or late, that can be diagnosed with the X-rays. So joint line pain. But the same joint line pain is positive, the anterior joint line on the joint line, and the patient is found to be young or maybe between 20 and 35. shows a history of play, trauma, fall, whatever it is, showing a joint line pain, it means it is not degenerative, it is some trauma that has happened to the knee complexes. That could be a ligament, meniscus, or probably a collaterals. Now, how to confirm this? If the patient has got his joint line pain, it is pain throughout the joint and on palpation, okay, in this area, the medial component, where you have marked it over here, if the pain is going to be more at this point, all right, it is called as, it is most likely, you did not give a pressure, pain is there, but this is pain on mild palpation, sensitive. It means the patient has got an injury of your medial collateral ligament. This is pain on pressure, this is pain on palpation, sensitive. Most likely to be a medial collateral ligament injury. You can go for a stress test and you can confirm this whether it is opening or not. That will tell you about a grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3. No opening is grade 1. Opening with pain, severe pain is bruising is grade 2. Okay, and there is absolutely instability, and a good opening is absolutely is grade 3 swelling. No complete opening, but there is no pain to be grade 4. So we have got so many classifications. That's out of this particular today's session. This is one you can confirm. All right. Now, so I think. All right. So let us come along with the structure. So you know this joint line, the laterally palpated, pain over there is most likely to be a lateral collateral ligament. All right. Now you know this medial lateral regions. Now you have a small depression over here, and if you're putting a pain, your finger over here, this anterior joint line, it is most likely the anterior joint line pain. Pain is not present in the medial component, but pain is present more in the anterior joint line. It is most likely a meniscal injury. Most likely a meniscal injury. That even the anterior horn of the meniscus is found to be injured, because you are palpating the meniscus in between the joints, and it is found to be showing you pain on palpation in the anterior joint line on pressure. So it is most likely a meniscal injury, that even the anterior horn. And we have found the same joint extended to the posterior component, and if the patient is and your pressure is giving a pain, if it is causing a pain, just a palpation is causing a pain, it is most likely to be a, we have to go to the bone, not in the muscle. This is painful. But if you go to the bone, it is not painful, but the pressure is going to be painful now. It is most likely to be a posterior horn. So middle meniscal, lateral meniscal, so your middle meniscus, anterior horn, posterior horn injuries can show you palpate, not a pressure pain. I'm telling you, this is pressure pain, but this is palpatory pain. This is pressure pain. This is palpatory pain. So if there's a pain on palpation, be sensitive. Then you can confirm the patient has got meniscus medial, okay, anterior horn or the posterior horn. If the pain is existing, but it is found to be at this point more than these regions, most likely to be a collateral ligament medial component. The same way over here, you have seen this anterior joint line, pain over here, the anterior joint line has a small depression. All right, fine. This anterior joint line, if it is pain on palpation, not on pressure, it most likely to be expected to be a lateral meniscus injury. Okay, and if it is anterior, it's called anterior horn of lateral meniscus. And we have seen we have marked the point posterior is called the posterior meniscus. Sorry, the posterior of the lateral meniscus. So you can find meniscal injuries, you can find your ligamental injuries. Of course, ACL we cannot palpate. All right. So if the patient is showing you pain throughout the joint line, all right, no specific point of anterior, middle, or posterior joint line or the medial lateral component, but still complaints of pain and giving away, or sometimes says that I'm losing the balance. It is expected to be a anterior cruciate ligament injury of ACL injuries, wherein there is pain throughout the joint line because it is sensitive, but there is no increase in pain in any of this palpate region. So it is not telling you about meniscal injury, not telling you about a collateral ligament injury. It tells you about an injury that is inside the joint, which is anterior cruciate ligament mostly. They will give you history of imbalances or giving away, and there is a dull aching pain throughout the joint line, but of course there is no palpable pain in any of the structures. Right. So this will help you to identify your ACL also to a certain extent. All right. Next, let's go ahead with the next component of. Once you know about this, now sometimes the patient, now since you know the joint line, right? You have the joint line and you have seen about the small depression. And you can also find above the small depression, just to put two fingers. You have this joint line, you have a depression, just put two fingers. You will approximately come across a point that is parallel to the of your base of the knee. This is the base of the patella. Alright. And if you can find, if you can see this this structure, this region. Okay. If a patient is complaining of pain in this region. Alright. So joint line, this is the joint line, two fingers above. Alright, there's a small region at the line of the patella, if you can find, and if there's a pain in this region, the patient complains of pain in this region, pain increases both flexion and extension. Knee joint pain is what the patient will say, but it is not a joint line pain. It is above the joint line, two fingers above. Alright, this is most likely expectation of your iliotibial band syndrome, because it is here you can find a small, okay, if you just put your finger and see here, you will find a small bony prominence. Okay, this is the bony prominence. Now this is your epicondyle of your femur, lateral epicondyle, on which your iliotibial band actually slides into our front and back when you are continuously flexing and extending. So when you flex and extend, this iliotibial band that is actually like this, which is like this, when you flex, it goes like this, extend, it comes like this. So it rubs against the middle epicondyle, the lateral epicondyle, causing you pain. It is where mostly you find the pain that is called for your iliotibial band. Alright. Now we are seeing this structure over here. Joint, knee joint pain, but no joint line pain. Below the joint line, two fingers. Here it is above the joint line, two fingers laterally. Below the joint line, two fingers medially. You get a pain. That the entire beautiful structure comes in, gets completed. If the pain is positive over here, it is expected to be a pes anserenus injury. There is an involvement of pes anserenus where you got a gracilis, sartorius, and that's okay. This is found to be involved. So you have this particular pes anserenus that is found to be involved over here. It could be a pes anserenus pain. Okay, this again usually happens following sports. Now I know the patella. All right, and I am having a pain just above the patella. History of injury, no immobilization, no fracture, but history of injury is there. Or maybe a history of continuous squatting, history of continuous jumping, or history of what you call kneeling down, expected to be a suprapatellar bursitis above the patella. Here it is infrapatellar bursitis, jumper's knee, suprapatellar bursitis. Right. So patella is not painful. It's a pain, but this is more painful. This is more painful. This is more painful. So this is more painful is your osteoslatus. More painful is here is going to be jumper's knee. Same above the knee it is going to be your suprapatellar bursitis or okay. Wherein you have this particular joint line pain, injury possibility, meniscus, and the pain over here is middle meniscus, the anterior horn. Pain over here, middle meniscus, the posterior horn. Pain in the midpoint of the joint line and palpation would be a cardiac. Same over here, the middle joint line injury, injury of positive could be a injury of knee complex of your IDK. I mean, at the IDK, at the anterior joint line, it's most likely to be that of your anterior of your lateral meniscus. Posterior point is posterior of the lateral meniscus. This region, there's a depression. This is your lateral quadriceps ligament injury. Two fingers above this muscular band is called iliotibial band injury. Two fingers down the joint line is going to be your pes anserenus injuries. And patella, you move your patella medially and laterally. Okay, pain in the pain on the patella, and it is more found in palpable pain on these regions. Okay, medial and lateral regions. The medial region of the patella, lateral region of the patella, just below here. Alright, so this region is found to be painful. Where you have beautiful, you will be having a small depression. If you can find external knee complex, you find a small, you have depression on both the sides of the patella. Alright, can you see this depression? Tighten this. You find this depression, loose panna. You find this depression. If you have a pain in this depression regions, okay, so it means your retinaculum is found to be involved. So if you're pulling this retinaculum, if you're pulling your patella laterally, pain is over here. It is expected to be a medial retinaculum injury. If you're pulling it, pushing it towards the medial side, pain over here in the depression is expected to be a lateral retinaculum injury. So you can diagnose that the patient has got an injury following of medial lateral retinaculum provided there's a history of fall, injury, pain, or probably overactivity, or probably even overuse injuries. So many conditions you'll be able to diagnose them by just knowing about the surface anatomy, and we can palpate the structures of whatever it is. So just getting back to your previous slide. Okay, just a second. I'll share my screen. So if you could look at this particular image, you'll be able to identify a lot of components over here. Number one, okay, look at this. As I said, if you have a pain probably somewhere here above the patella, okay, where there's a depression, it is expected to be a quadriceps tendinopathy. Usually this happens when we physios go for a forceful flexion for a stiff knee and the patient complains of pain. It could be a quadriceps tendinopathy wherein the fat pad is getting adhered along with the quadriceps tendon and you get a pain. Pain probably at the patella. We can palpate the patella and the pain is on the patella. Okay, it could be most likely to be a chondromalacia patellae or the runner's knee, okay, or PFPS syndromes. And also tell you about the tracking components of about your retinoculums also. All right, so this could be it. And if you just give pressure on the patella, as you did, as probably I forgot to demonstrate it, give pressure on the patella, we call it as a grinding test, and it confirms the patellofemoral joint arthritis. So you can just know wherever the pain, where the structure is, and you can cause your pain. And if you look into this region, I told you this is the joint line. 2 fingers of the joint line, we have a pain in this region. It is most likely expected to be a iliotibial band syndrome. All right, this could be happening for people with a history of prolonged running, prolonged squatting, sitting, and all those activities. Okay, and you have seen about this also over here. This is a joint line. Okay, we have seen about this joint line. This is the patella. This is the joint line. With the joint line pain, we have seen a lot of components of joint line pain. If it is lateral, then it could be a lateral meniscus or could be lateral collateral ligament, depending on the palpatory component. Okay, provided there is a history of injury, trauma. Okay, if it is young individual, if it is old individual, no history of trauma, it is most likely expected to be an arthritis. Coming on to this medial side, okay, joint line pain expected to be a meniscus tear, expected to be a collateral ligament injury. All right, and if it is showing history of for injury, fall, trauma, game, whatever it is, then you can suspect to have a meniscal tear or probably a ligament injury. If there is no history of fall, no history of trauma, no history of stress or load, okay, it is gradual onset and the age is more than 35 or 40, you can expect the patient to be having, we can come to conclusion of arthritis, forget about other things. Joint line just 2 centimeters below, 2 fingers below, if you have a pain over here, we saw about your pes anceronis bursa, so we can be pes anceronis bursitis could be a problem. And just if you could know about this, below the patella, we have seen about this particular tubercle over here. This is pain, palpatory pain on this particular tubercle, which is red, inflamed, expected to be Osgood-Schlatter syndrome, provided the patient is found to be less than 15 or 16. The maximum is 16, but 12 to 15 is the usual age that it occurs. So it could be a Osgood-Schlatter syndrome. If it is just below the knee complex, it could be a jumper's knee. All right, just above the knee complex could be a suprapatellar bursitis. All right, so you can diagnose so many. Again, I forgot to tell you, if there is joint line pain but no palpable pain increasing on palpation on any of the joint area, nor on a ligament, but still the patient complains of joint line pain with a history of trauma, with a history of fall or play or sleep, whatever it is, and the patient complains of instability or some giving way like of a symptom, it is most likely expected to be a anterior cruciate ligament. There are a lot of components that can be discussed in the posterior component also, but as of now, for this particular session of 1 hour, I am preferring to conclude with this, that just if you could know how to palpate your knee complex, okay, it will be very, very easy for you to come down to a diagnosis of so many things. Right? So with this, I just make a small revamp of whatever we are seeing. Probably if you can remember, all right. I hope most of you can remember about what is being done over here. You know this, the patella. This is how much the patella is going to be moving. This will tell you about what went wrong, whether the problem is between a patella or the patella is free to move or the patella is not free to move, which is restricting range of motion. One you can identify, this you can identify that is going to be your anterior tibial so ligamentum patellae. This will tell you about the angles. Grasshopper, we have heard about the area called as grasshopper eye patella, medial called squint, the lateral squints. Of course, you can diagnose depending on the presentation of this ligamentum patellae. All right, and of course we can identify your joint line. Usually the patella lies almost 2 to 2.5 centimeters above the joint line. So sorry, 1.5 centimeters above the joint line. Even for this guy, you can find this is the joint line, and this is the distance. It is almost okay. This much of distance that is found to be there between the joint and probably your joint line and the patella. So this is usually found to be positive and normal. So this is the normal patella, the normal knee joint. If the patella is found to be at the joint line or below, it is called as patella baja, B and B. It means low riding patella. If it is more like this, more than 1.5 centimeters, it is called as patella above, patella alta. Okay, patella above. So it is a high riding patella. This will give a lot of information because a high riding patella will always show you dislocation of patella. Patient comes down with recurrent dislocation of patella, blocking of patella. You just below the patella position, you need not work in so many because it's just because it's got a patella alta, it's getting dislocated because it is getting to the shallowest part of your intercondylar sulcus. It is most likely to get dislocated when you squat with your medial lateral rotation of a tibia or a femur in open or closed kinematic chain. That differs. And of course, you know the patella, and of course you have this depression over here, pain in this depression regions. Or pain in the depression region, if you just put your fingers and palpate, you find something is rubbing, a couple of threads like such as are rubbing between your fingers and the bone. That's retinaculum. And if it is painful over there, confirm it by giving a stretch. If I am pushing it to the lateral side, if it pains over here, it is confirming that it could be most possibility of your medial retinaculum, or could be if I'm pushing it to the medial side, lateral compartment is causing a pain in this region. It is most likely to be lateral retinaculum found to be injured over here. That's the retinaculum injuries. Joint line we have found about your parietal ligament or the medial parietal ligament midpoint. Joint line pain, age matters and injury matters, and of course your meniscus anterior horn, posterior horn with the injury positive. Same way for the lateral component over here, and of course the patella, superior bursa, inferior bursa, jumper's knee, housemaid's knee, whatever we call it as. Joint line 2 fingers below expected to be a PES. Joint line lateral 2 fingers above could be a what you call your ligamentum patellae, so sorry, iliotibial band. And over the patella, we have this particular muscle. You can identify which muscle, whether the bulk muscle is want to be good or not, weak or not, because when you're going to contract the muscle, you can find the beautiful bulk of the muscle that is happening. When patients are not able to create this particular contour, you can find whether lateralis is found to be weak with medialis, because when there is a weakness of lateralis and medialis, this beautiful bulk, this curve will not be forming, which indicates that the particular component of the quadriceps, maybe lateralis or medialis, is found to be injured. All right, and when you are bending it, the pain extends throughout this region. Okay, it is most likely to be a tightness or shortness of your rectus femoris, which usually does not happen unless a long-standing mobilization has taken place over here. Okay, so this is a small revamp of what we are discussing now for the past almost 1 hour. So with this, I conclude my presentation of this particular seminar on surface palpation and for diagnosis of knee complexes. There's a lot to learn just on palpation. If you can palpate and if you know which, because just hardly takes 2 minutes. I need to have this particular anatomy of it. I just take the sketch pen, it is there in my armada, there is in my clinic. I draw the patella, I draw this point, patella 1, this point 1, this joint line, and identify these two. And it just takes me, probably the expert, it just takes 2 minutes, and put your fingers. Okay, fine, pain here, yes, no, pain here, yes, no, pain here, yes, no, pain here, yes, no. Palpate it, you are on the structure. If it is causing you pain, the structure is showing an injury. If it is no pain, you can go ahead with it. And if you're showing a pain over here or here, you just only have to do a special test to confirm whether you are right or wrong to go ahead with it. That's it. So you are easy enough, because once you have a patient coming known to you, you cannot spend hours and hours of time for diagnosis, hours of time for palpations. But only concern is you will have to know how to palpate, because you can find the palpation easy if you use the tip of your fingers. Okay, use the tip of your fingers, that will be helping you to diagnose it easily. What is to be done is you can find the ligament which is like a rope, like multiple threads or a rope that is found to be there on the joint line. So you just only have to palpate, and if you are right in palpation, your joint line palpation will be showing you extremely painful when compared to the bone. So this is the bone pain. Okay, this is the joint pain. You find the difference? This bone pain is joint pain, which is more severe. This one, alright. So this is a joint pain. Is it painful? See my bending. Alright. So if you're on the joint, in the joint line, you're touching or creating a pressure on the sensitive regions, it's going to be more painful. If it's on the bone, other structures it won't be so painful at all. If you're on the ligament, it is severely painful. I'm giving an example. I'm not saying, I'm just putting my fingers. See, he's wincing. You find it? Okay, see, he's wincing. The other leg is actually moving just for trying to escape from it, but he cannot do because he happens to be my son, unfortunately. So it's painful. So when you're on the ligament, on the joint line, on the induced structure, it is going to be very painful. If it is extremely painful, then compared to other regions, it is that structure is going to be involved, and you're clean with the diagnosis. You need not spend a lot of time. And what you need to provide is to confirm with a special test, and maybe do some special test evaluations for checking whether it's grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3, or grade 4, whatever it is. And probably, like, if you need additional evaluations, maybe you can ask for an opinion from any faculty or any of the, if there is a complete injury, they can take the opinion from an orthopedician if required. Otherwise, you know how to, if it's grade 1 and grade 2, as a physio, we can read well and better. You know what is to be planned, and you can plan it, and things are better safe enough. So this actually will build your confidence in handling a case, in making sure that your diagnosis is most likely to be 90% true, sensitive, and positive to your expectations. Maybe the 10% what is expected is your special test to be done, so that you will be able to confirm but what your palpate is right or wrong, and that finishes most of the evaluations. And beautifully, you can be confident, and if you're confident enough, your body language changes. Once the body language changes, definitely a patient gains confidence on you, and when he gains confidence on you, believe me, he will come back to you for whatever is here for a set of programs to be taken up later. He will not go back to anybody. That's one way of you keeping your client along with you, by making sure that you have a strong, positive, and confident body language. This confident body language will come only on practice, only on seeing multiple cases, only on you palpating it on your own self, on your own friends. And believe me, you can do wonders. And specifically for people who are into sports, who are going into sports, who are trying to aspire sports, physical therapy, rehabilitation as a career, probably you have to be very fast in your assessments like this, because you hardly have time, maybe around 120 seconds to the maximum given down to you to decide what is to be done next. And maximum it is 180 seconds to decide whether it's going to be in the field or off the field. Of course, you cannot. The entire world is watching at you. The entire team is watching at you. The entire audience is watching at you. The entire management is watching at you. Your decision is supposed to be taken. You have very limited time. What it needs is an expertise from you, which can come only on fantastic learning through a hands-on, by practice, and practice. With this, I stop my presentation. I stop my screen sharing, and I thank my son for tolerating me for all the pains that he has faced during the palpation. And I thank my friend Chandramohan for selecting me and giving this opportunity to meet all of you guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Chandra.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation with 3 slides only. But you have made it. I was a little bit worried earlier, but how you are going to do the practical session through video, but you nailed it, sir.
I hope that all the participants are also happy, and they have found something is useful and wonderful, and they have actually learned a little more what they actually knew from what they had previously.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And is there any questions, the participants? Any questions? Rupesh, can you check any questions in the chat box?
Still only appreciations, sir.
No
A lot of
questions.
appreciations for you.
Thank you very much. Actually,
We got a
Chandramohan,
question, I think.
is actually, normally we have a 2 days workshop on surface palpation, surface and functional anatomy and diagnostic components. How to
Yeah.
palpate the body, and through your palpation and functional anatomy of clinical reasoning, how can you go for a clinical diagnosis and rather a therapeutic diagnosis for you to handle a patient. Normally I take a 2 days workshop, and out of that particular component, one component is knee complex. But that is what we are discussing now. There's a lot of things on shoulder, trunk, cervical, lumbar, and ankle. So probably like if you have some continuous sessions, it can be good enough to discuss. Otherwise, a 2-day workshop something can be managed, and we'll be able to do it better, because you actually learning in on a bigger platform, learning with a model. Okay, that is more different from just going for a theoretical difference. That's why I got somebody over here for me, and I told people it's possible to get somebody so you'll be able to palpate and experience. Once you palpate and experience, only you'll be able to find the difference between a normal skin, ligament, capsule, a bone, tubercle, tuberosity, a tendon, fascia. They are not expected to be palpated, and you should find the difference between those structures. So that's a lot of things we learned on practicality. But of course, thanks for giving me the platform to explain about this better.
So there is some question, I think 1 or 2 questions are there actually.
Yes.
Okay,
Can I
fine.
read it for
Sir,
you?
can you read, please?
Yeah, so what will the pain be present on palpation in case of infrapatellar bursitis? Fantastically done. The question is, the answer is very simple, gentlemen. I told you about how to palpate your, okay. See, pain is a pain. Let us not forget about pain is a pain. All right. Now, once you know the base of the patella, you know the base of the patella, you are drawn the base of the patella, that's the apex of the patella. All right. Usually, in an infrapatellar bursitis, I think, all right. In the infrapatellar bursitis, this is the apex of patella. You normally have the fantasy. Just can you, okay. If there is an infrapatellar bursitis, believe me, this is the apex of patella, you'll be having a small lump or a bump. Okay, a small a localized swelling line, and you just put your finger, not even pressurize. You have an apex, put your finger and just give a small pressure, and he complains of pain. It is nothing but infrapatellar bursitis that is existing between your ligament. This is the patella. This is the ligamentum patellae, and the bursa is somewhere here. So when this is on top of it, so when I am giving a pressure here, this ligamentum patellae pressures gives a compression on the bursa, and it complains of pain. So 1, there will be redness. Number 2, there will be a mild swelling. Number 3, pain and palpation just below the apex of patella, but between the patella and your tibial tuberosity, this region will be so painful. All right, and you can increase the pain by bending it. It's fine. Just you bend the knee complex, it's going to be painful. It's as simple as that. But of course, the palpation is the easiest way to find it's painful.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
There is another question also. You have left. It's
On-
above that question. I
Okay,
will read it, sir.
Osmate's knee is almost the same. I can just go ahead with that.
Sir, crepitation in knee extension, what it indicates? Generally, we have felt that in OA patients, but I have seen it in young people also. Is that same kind of question?
What can we do extracellular fluid collection in the knee? See, extracellular fluid collection in the knee is absolutely something different, because if it is intracellular, you have nothing to do with it. If it is extracellular, it is expected to be a retina. Mostly, retinoculum is found to be damaged. Okay, or it could be some external injury involving a fascia. You just have to be in patient at least 48 to 72 hours with a crab bandage, elevation and icing component. They goes off, because around the knee complex extracellular fluids accumulation is usually because of any inflammation following an acute injury that will settle down within 72 hours usually. Okay, you cannot, how to differentiate between hematorosis and edema? Fine. See, hemarthrosis you cannot palpate. You cannot palpate hemarthrosis because it is accumulation of blood inside the joint. All right. You might find, okay, a generalized edema, okay, a generalized swelling, a kind of a thing.
Hello?
You might- when you say edema, it is a generalized component injury of a knee component. But when you say it is hemarthrosis, you will not find hemarthrosis. Second thing, hemarthrosis usually have something called as synovial fluid effusion similarity. That conditions, your accumulation of fluid will usually be at the joint line or slightly above the joint line, nothing below the joint line. Mind it, this joint line is there, you will have more amount of fluid collection only above the joint line, and beautifully these two small contours that I showed you in between, you remember these two small contours I showed you, these two small contours will not be evidently existent in an edema, but in a hemarthrosis this may be existent, but it will have more accumulation on top of this region. That is because we have a larger pouch. There is no pouch in the lateral component, middle component, the lateral to the patella, but you have a larger pouch on top of the patella. So definitely you will have accumulation over here, the fluid accumulation will be here in case of hemarthrosis, but here you'll have if this is going to be lost, it means there is an edema, overall joint edema of the knee complexes, not hemarthrosis. Crepitation and knee extension, what does it indicate? Generally we have felt in OA patient, but I have seen young people also find. That's a difference between a crepitation and a click sound. We should be able to identify that. Crepitations is something like sound. When you move the joint, it is consistent if any sound. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, something like that. So when you have two rough surface grinding on each other, you will have a crepitation. So when you're moving this, it will you'll have some rubbing sound. So this is what is called crepitus that can happen in flexion or extension. All right. When you have a click sound, katak, tak, click. So these are all not crepitation. These are all some incongruency that is there between your tibia and your femur. This is found quite commonly in people. Nothing to be worried about it because the body knows how to adjust all these incongruences. But they are prone for stresses on due course of time and maybe degeneration early. That's the only thing. But otherwise, there's a difference between a crepitus and a click sound. Second thing, crepitus of arthritis is mostly positive in case of flexion, not in extension. I'm again telling you. Okay, crepitus is mostly positive in case of flexion, not in extension, because when you flex it, the patella actually grinds. Okay, on the the patella actually glides between the intercondylar sulcus, so it moves. So if you get a crepitus visible or heard, okay, when you are flexing a knee complexes, it is between the patella. It is expected to be patellofemoral arthritis. When there is no pain in the crepitus on flexion, but when this crepitus is found to be there in the joint line during flexion, it is expected to be a tibiofemoral joint arthritis. Usually a tibiofemoral joint arthritis can show you crepitus both in flexion and extension, but a patellofemoral joint will show you a crepitus mostly in flexion, not in extension, because when you're doing a flexion, there is compression taking place. All right, but in case of a patellofemoral joint arthritis, when you're extending an open kinematic chain, it will be more crepitus is more positive, but extending in a closed kinematic chain, the crepitus is negative. Again, I'm telling you, if it is a patellofemoral joint arthritis, okay, you can find crepitus in flexion. All right, you can find crepitus in flexion in an open kinematic chain. You can find crepitus sometimes in extension, okay, in an open kinematic chain. But crepitus will not be found in a closed kinematic chain extension, because in a CKC extension, when you're extending it, your quadriceps is not going to create compression of patella against a femur. So in extension, you will not be finding a crepitus, but in flexion, you will be finding a crepitus. So this is one way where you can identify between a patellofemoral joint arthritis and a tibiofemoral joint arthritis. Can pes anseronus bursitis and meniscal injury present at the same time? Yes, of course, it can be present at the same time. Nothing wrong about it. but it doesn't usually happen. But if it happens, diagnosis is simple. As I told you, joint line is one component, and 2 fingers down the joint line is another component. You can definitely go ahead with it for your diagnosis of tendinous bursitis and probably your meniscus. See, discussing, if you want to discuss on the knee, we have a lot of discuss on the knee complexes, because the anterior joint pain, posterior joint pain, posterior medial joint pain, posterior lateral joint pain from the posterior component. So many things are there involved, but of course, I think it is not the time that you can discuss. We'll be able to have to discuss on this. But if at all you find some time, we'll definitely discuss a lot on this. All right. So that's what I would like to put it over here. I think I'll hand it over to Chandramohan now.
Yes, sir. And I think there is one more question.
Fat pad impingement syndrome. Yeah, of course. Fat pad impingement syndrome usually happens in 2 kind of patients who underwent stiffness following mobilization. Okay, now these guys can have fat pad syndrome, and people who had the particular problem of immobilization for a short period of time, they had a stiffness, but they did not undergo a perfect rehabilitation. They went in by the bone, and what happens is that this particular fat pad, even though it starts getting stuck with the ligament, your quadriceps tendon, it moves along with the quadriceps tendon, and it gets impinged with the ligamentum, with the patella. Now this is the one. So maybe in such conditions, you have no option to work, because if it is already being stuck only with your your quadriceps tendon, and it is free enough to move over the femur, you have no option to do anything over this, because it will be moving along with your tendon. But if the fat pad is not mobile, if it is not moving, and if it is going to be adjust between your femur and your quadriceps tendon, okay, the best thing you can do is avoid forced passive movements. Avoid forced passive movements, because forced passive movements will not help you to improve range of motion. It will only help you to increase the length of your quadriceps tendon or your ligamentum patellae. That is, it will increase its length. By that, there will be increase in the length. It will help you for increase in range of motion. What you will land on is you'll be having something called as plasticity. That the structures will go in for a plasticity, and soon it loses elastic properties, and the patient will not be able to completely lock the knee complexes. Even if it locks the knee complexes, you won't have a forceful locking of the knee complexes. These guys will have a difficulty in running fast. So don't do this. If you want to avoid, okay, if you want to avoid fat pad impingement to be developed, avoid forced passive movements on a stiff knee complexes. Work more on extension. Work more on extension, and flexion will definitely take its chance to follow it. Of course, the knee listens to the hip and the knee. Definitely no, because it's a cross kinematic activity. Knee cannot operate or function individually without it listening to the hip and the knee ankle complexes. Definitely no. Okay, even if you have an ankle injury, your knee goes into flexion. You have a hip injury, hip goes into flexion. You have a back pain, you have a back pain, your hip goes into extension, or probably your knee comes into flexion. Something happens. Your knee will definitely listen, okay, to the hip and the ankle more than the brain. In OA cases, which area of the pain is more common side? Is definitely your joint line, specifically the medial joint line, more specifically in the anterior joint line of the medial compartment of the knee complex. Any link between sural nerve and the knee pain? Of course, there is a link, but that's a little difficult to explain at this particular junction. Probably Chandramohan sir can give me a call, and probably we can discuss, because it's a huge lot of things to discuss on this. I have read this question, but we can discuss this. It needs a lot of anatomical and mechanical discussions to be taken up. I had to skip this question as of now.
Any other questions, participants? Somebody raised hand. I think kindly write your questions in the chat box, so it is easy for us to read it out. Is today's volunteer Prachi Booch there? Is Prachi there?
Yes, Prasi there.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Kindly conclude the session, please.
Yes. Hello, sir. It was a very informative session. I am privileged to volunteer, especially this particular session, as I've been learning from here, sir, since a year now, and we both belong to DY. Surface palpitation is not very frequently discussed, and you demonstrated everything practically in detail with model giving examples and explanations. Very much grateful, sir. Thank you for solving the doubts of the participants patiently and enthusiastically. We appreciate you making time in this busy schedule. Once again, thank you, VK sir. Thank you, the organizing team, EXRX India, and all the participants. This wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you all again.
Prachi Booch, I think you are from DY?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I could get you on.
Yes, sir. Cardio.
Right, I got you. Just I got remember your name now. Now,
Sir.
fine. Thanks to this guide and thanks to the people at home because like they made sure that 1.5 hour that is going to be here, they don't disturb me at all.
Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
I
Good
really
night.
thank your son. Thanks for being patiently sitting for a longer time without knowing what is happening.
Yeah.
So, and I thank all the participants. It was a full session for a longer time till the end. The participants were full, and it shows that they learn a lot till the end. And I thank my team, Professor Duna and Dr. Rupesh, for their help.
Duna has been very helpful to you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Rupesh, I think
It's my pleasure, sir.
And actually, she made us to work very less. Because of her only, myself and Rupesh are a little bit relaxed. So most of the work.
Two strong pillars helping you out, Duna and Rupesh. Get
Yeah,
gentlemen.
do not.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
It was
so
really
much.
nice session from you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank
And
you very
thanks your
much.
boy
Sir.
too.
In non-medical, she also learned.
Yeah, really. Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Thank
sir.
you.
Good night.
Good night. See you
Good
tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye,
Bye.
sir.
I'm